Welcome to the Next Time podcast. My name is Sundar. I lead the forensic services at Next Time. This podcast is part of the Global Anti Corruption series. Our podcast is an endeavor to bring up emerging topics of relevance for executives across the spectrum of services we offer. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Across the geographies, regulatory environments are changing, business practices are changing, and behaviors are changing with COVID. Anti corruption in the current environment is bringing newer dimensions with issues around supply chain, healthcare, and other reporting requirements. This also includes regulatory interventions at this point in time and the whole new virtual world. In this podcast series, we will be interviewing specialists across regions to gather specific insights on anti corruption in current times. The region of focus today is United States of America. Today, we have with us Philip Yurovsky, a partner with Chairman Sterling. He's a litigation partner. He's a former federal prosecutor with extensive experience in investigating and prosecuting FCPA matters. Philip, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Philip, I just want to jump into the conversation directly to get an understanding of what events are happening at this point in time. Over the past 60 days, there's been a lot of changes that all of us have had, and be it businesses, be it employees, there's been a lot of impact. And in this current economic condition that we are speaking about, where it is covered with COVID-related discussions, how do you perceive corruption risks?
Well, first, I can't believe it's only been 60 days. It just seems so much longer than that. But what I would say is that what we see and what we are experiencing is enormous stress coming at us and at our clients from all sorts of different directions. And, starting with just economic stress with the shutdowns and the disruption to business, that places enormous stress on companies, just existential stress. The idea of, are we going to survive as a going concern? And that can cause companies to take shortcuts, to do things that ultimately, when discovered down the road, when we return to some degree of normalcy, may result in in prosecution, enforcement, loss of business, cancellation of contracts, and so on. So that's for one stress. We have the stress on employees, whether they are going to have a job tomorrow, whether they can meet performance goals, that even ones that may have been adjusted downward, nevertheless, still put a lot of pressure on a company when they're working in unusual circumstances and with disruptive supply chains and customer lines and so on. And also simply that they're not often in their offices, or in their workplaces, which means they're not under supervision, and they don't have the ability to go to a supervisor and bounce ideas off a supervisor or a colleague or compliance, at least in an easy, accessible way as they were used to. There's also resources stress. Companies that are under financial stress cut nonprofit cost centers.
Absolutely.
And so that means that compliance and auditing and legal are all being cut at a time when the companies may actually need them more than ever, but not have the time or the money or the resources to do that. We have supply chain stress, right? I mean, companies that were providing critical goods and widgets are themselves disrupted, or the supply or the logistics and the transportation is disrupted. So companies are desperate to find new supply chains, new vendors, and sometimes that's that they cut corners and don't do all the due diligence they ought to do there. We got stress coming from the government or from dealing with the government, because at least in the United States and in many other countries, the government's pushing huge amounts of stimulus money into the economy. But that means that companies that in the past perhaps didn't do business with the government other than pay its taxes and maybe have some health inspections, now are receiving grants and procurement through the government, which means that is a whole new risk of dealing with governments, dealing with government officials, new potential statutory.
So effectively making it as a government touch point, so to say.
Exactly. And I think just the last area of stress is fraud, and it's not so much you committing fraud, but others committing fraud on you. There are plenty of unscrupulous consultants and salesmen and finders out there, and you may wind up in your own desperation becoming a victim.
I can understand. Absolutely. So, some of the points that you raised in terms of resource constraints and also the pressure for acting differently at this point in time, which is a deviation from compliance, is an obvious challenge that many of the geographies are facing at this point in time. To just extend the thought from there, is that what are the risks caused by COVID in US as a region at this point in time, from your perspective?
Well, I assume you don't mean getting sick, but apart from that,
Of course.
apart from that, look, I mean, all the things that I just mentioned in terms of companies being under financial stress and therefore cutting corners is obviously a risk that is, caused by COVID. I think we also see things that are perhaps less obvious, which is just the different way that we encounter our business, that we deal with our own businesses. The lockdown, the social lockdown, the fact that you and I are both working from our homes today, means that employees are likely to be cut off from their usual support, but also feeling very isolated, and therefore feeling that it's all on them to do things. And sometimes if they're not well trained and you don't have the right controls in place behind them, that's an obvious issue. Government programs, again, we know that in the United States, all these government programs are going to be subject to fraud, waste, and abuse. And we're seeing that in other countries as well. We know that that's happening. And it's just a question of when are we going to have time to go find it and look at it and prevent, and we try to prevent it, but if not, catch it and punish it. I think there's going to be a lot of rush to market without appropriate regulatory oversight and testing when we're talking about, obviously medical goods, pharmaceutical goods, medical devices, masks, whatever. There's a lot of stuff out there that hasn't been through the kind of regulatory testing that it would have had in the past, and some of that's going to be a problem. And sometimes it got through that without that regulatory testing because there were some, payments on the side, or something happened, or you have conflicts of interest, and all that is because there's just I wouldn't say it's a breakdown, but it's an enormous change in how people are encountering their business, and there's not the kind of controls behind that we had when people were going to offices and factories and sales rooms.
Yeah, this also in a way reflecting the point that the controls are not as effective when they are actually running remotely as it would have been otherwise, right? So when it is working remotely, it's not able to be as effective as the companies would expect it to be.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when you're sitting at your desk in your office, you're probably using a computer provided by your employer. You're using a phone provided by your employer. When you're at home, all of a sudden your personal cell phone or your own laptop, and you just feel a certain amount of freedom because your employer is not necessarily looking over your shoulder when you're doing that work. And I think that it's not so much that I'm in favor of a surveillance state, but I think there's a healthy bit of control from the knowledge that your employer does have controls in place. And when you're not sitting there in an office with other people around you, you don't necessarily feel that. And obviously there are still controls on disbursements. I mean, unless you are a person who has signing authority, your ability to write a check on the business maybe still has to go through controls, but it's now very remote, and it's just not this. You don't have the same degree of personality that goes with this, and that can be a problem.
I completely agree with that. I think that's a very typical challenge. That's more a behavioral challenge that is there across geographies. I just want to go back to a particular point that you mentioned in terms of increase in government touch points. Right. How do you see the increase in government touch points to impact anti-corruption at this point in time?
Okay, well, there's two sides of that. One is the opportunity for corruption, which is even with all the stimulus money out there, there's still only so much of it. And so moving up the chain, making sure you get yours faster, more of it, whatever. Obviously, you're dealing with government officials, and and there's opportunities there to make or offer corrupt payments. Second, the government is in the procurement business, even more so than they were before. So, for instance, most hospitals in the United States are not state-owned hospitals, but enough of them are, and they all need to buy PPE. They need to buy masks and sanitizers and medicine and respirators and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot, they're buying from sources that they haven't bought before. And again, to get that business, there's opportunities for corruption. On the other side, there's the enforcement touch points. And in the United States, the Justice Department has set up COVID-19 task forces in each federal district. So we have something like 70 federal districts, each with a U.S. attorney, and each U.S. attorney's office has a COVID-19 task force that is precisely looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, and pharmaceutical fraud, false claims, all that kind of thing. And in addition, some of the federal departments have established new inspector generals. So again, more enforcement resources are being thrown at that. You're not yet seeing the results of that because these cases take time. But our experience from the last round, the last economic crisis, is that we're still seeing cases coming out of the 2008 and 9 crisis because things come out, and when they come out, they get prosecuted. I think we
is the recent update to the corporate prosecution guidelines by the DOJ, is it in line with these to say that while the economy is going through a difficult scenario, the regulators are not going to be waiting and watching? They're going to be very clear on taking enforcement actions actively. Is that what we're actually progressing towards?
Yes, but I'm not sure that the DOJ guidance that came out earlier this week or late last week was amendments to an existing policy, and it seems to have been something that was in progress already. But there are parts of it that I think are going to have resonance in today's circumstances. For instance, there is new language saying that one of the things the DOJ will be looking at when they evaluate a compliance program is whether it has sufficient resources. So going back to cutting resources, that one is a rather prescient statement by the DOJ. There's also an increased emphasis on use of data. So in a remote working situation, sometimes that's all you have is the data. So the idea of encouraging the development of systems to collect data that's relevant to compliance is clearly on point. We do also see from some of the agencies, it's clear that they are being very careful to say there's no COVID-19 defense. No matter how much stress you're under, you're not allowed to go break the law. But there are statements that reflect that we recognize that you may have to reprioritize some of your resources, reprioritize some of your controls, and we'll take that into account when we exercise prosecutorial discretion, whether that's criminal, civil, or regulatory.
I think that's an insightful reflection to say that one cannot take COVID-19 defenses, and that's going to be a very important message per se. While we come to the end of the podcast, I just wanted to ask you, what are the 2 or 3 things that you think compliance officers should do in the US?
Well, all right, 3 things. 1, they need to conduct a risk assessment of what is happening in their business today. What has changed? And then look at those changes and say, do we have gaps? Second thing is, some people see this as an opportunity. Oh, well, we've got changes, so we're going to redo our whole system. I do not think this is the time to be redoing your whole system. I think it's time to be looking at the changes and making sure you've targeted your changes. And then the third thing is training. And it's not, this is an opportunity, particularly with all these remote tools that we now have, or that we're now becoming more comfortable with and more familiar with. This is an opportunity to do really targeted training, not just going out there and saying, here's some general rules on compliance, or this is how you do an expense report, but to really tie it to the current situation. To say, we have a whole bunch of new vendors. We need to be doing this, and we need to be paying attention to that, and this is how you do it. So that, those are the three things: risk assessment, adjustment, targeted adjustment, and targeted training.
Absolutely. I think the training is something that cannot be undermined at this point in time. I was actually proposing sales staff who had never been trained would be having a lot of space and time during this point in time. You should just train all of them who have not undergone training for the past couple of years. That's what I was actually proposing. Anyways, I think, Philip, I should thank you for the time that you spared and the insightful information that you have given in terms of government touch points or the stimulus or the risks that are there for the organization. I'm sure the compliance officer would be having a lot of insights that they could take home with. Thanks a lot for joining the show. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on your show.